So now that we know how to solve equations, we need to look and see how we create equations. How are equations made? Because we are pros at now isolating variables and getting them alone, but why would we ever have to do this? Where does this show up in the real world? So the purpose of this video is to give you some examples of equations, really scenarios that you are going to build equations from. So I have a couple key words that we're going to use or try to find to help us structure the equation correctly, and some questions just to think about to help guide our time. So here in example number 1, a new 1-year membership at RecPlex costs $160. A registration fee of $28 is paid up front. The rest is paid monthly. So how much do new members pay each month? Well, the first thing that we always need to do is figure out, well, what is this question asking us? What are we trying to find? In other words, what is the x or the variable in our equation going to be representing? So that's the first step, and the easiest place to find this is just to look at what the question says. So in this case, I just wrote it's how much you're going to end up paying each month. So now that we know that that's what we're trying to find, we have to put the other missing pieces together. So it says to determine the total, or what this scenario equals. So it says up top that a membership costs $160. That's our big ticket cost amount. So the total cost of this scenario is $160. Then we're going to determine the other information they gave us. Is there a constant? Is there something that happens one time and therefore in the equation is going to be standing alone by itself? A registration fee is something that just happens once up front when you register. So that $28 is going to be a standalone in our equation. That's the constant. Then the easy way to look for the rate, or the number that's going to be multiplied, is using these keywords such as each or per, or sometimes you'll just have to have some common sense to know that that number is going to keep repeating. So in this case, we have a monthly cost, and so that requires a little bit of knowledge on our front to know that there are what? That's right, 12 months in a year. So that 12 is going to be our multiplier. So then we see this equation down here at the bottom that's formed where you see all of this strung together. You see that 160 by itself, that this all equals. You see our registration fee of $28 as a constant happening by itself. And then, of course, the how much you pay is happening monthly. It's happening 12 times in a year, which is why 12 is then multiplied by x. So we're going to see what this looks like then in another scenario where it's not all filled out for us already. So here's our next scenario. We have Juan's cell phone company that charges $35 a month for phone service plus 50 cents for each text message. How many text messages does Juan send in a month if his bill was $52? So we're going to go through those same series of questions to see if we can determine what this strung together equation will look like. First and foremost, what is the question asking? What is our variable representing? And in this case, the question says how many text messages. So our variable is going to be a number of texts. That's what our final answer will be. So step 2 says to determine the total. Is there any clues telling you that this all equals something? It tells us here at the end that his total bill, or his bill, was $52. So we know that 52 is the total we're looking for in this equation. In this equation, is there a constant? Is there something that happens just one time? And it tells us at the beginning that Juan's cell phone company charges $35 a month. So that's just a one-time fee. But then the rate with our each or per word is this 50 cents for each text message. So that's going to be our rate that happens over and over. So now whenever we start and we string this together, I always like to start with what it all equals. We know and we determined in step 2 that this all needs to equal 52. We found out in step 3 that there's a $35 fee up front by itself, and then it gets added to our 50 cents per text message. So we're going to use an X to represent texts, and 50 cents will be multiplied by that. So in this next activity, you're going to try and do this a little bit on your own. Go through these questions and these steps to string together some of these equations.